अब बता दीजिए। Hello everyone, very good evening to all of you. Welcome to our approach class, and today we are going to discuss about the medieval India, and the topic is Maratha. So before we start this session, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Harshvardhan Singh, and this is the lecture series in that we are providing the approach to history optional. In that I already covered the world history, and now I am going to take the lectures of medievals. So in this session we are going to discuss one question which was asked in the examination, and after that the basics of that, means from where the question is there, and then we are going to discuss the concept of that particular topic. So the question was asked in the examination, that is, Shivaji was not merely a military conqueror but also an enlightened ruler. Discuss. Shivaji was not merely a military conqueror but also an enlightened ruler. Discuss. Do you agree with this view? If you know the history, then almost all of you agree with this view. Almost all of you. Those who don't know about that, then they can consider, yes, Shivaji military conquests are there and that's why the military ruler. But enlightened ruler, what exactly comes into enlightened ruler? So we are going to discuss each and every aspect. First we are going to discuss the syllabus, then we are going to discuss the concept of it, and finally we are going to discuss this question, how to deal with the question, what should be the model answer format for this question, we are going to discuss. So in the syllabus, medieval India is an important aspect. As you know, the section B of the paper is medieval India, and I told you three important sections, that is Delhi Sultanate, Mughal and Maratha. Most of the question from this area, the main question I am talking about, because the short note type of question, the fifth question, it is going to cover all the aspects of the syllabus. But these three areas are important. So today we are going to discuss about the Maratha. So the Marathas were divided into two different areas in the syllabus. First, during the time of Aurangzeb, means basically that topic is Shivaji and early Maratha kingdom. Early Maratha kingdom. This is actually, you know, the contemporary Shivaji and Aurangzeb are contemporary. So this topic is given in the syllabus while discussing the Mughal. Then the another important topic of related to the Maratha, that is Maratha ascendancy under Peshwa, then Maratha fiscal and financial system, and the last thing is related to Battle of Panipat. In this topic, that is 1761, the Battle of Panipat, in the syllabus it is given that rise of Afghans and Battle of Panipat. Clear? So here we are going to discuss the Maratha history into three phases. The first phase, of course, emergence of Marathas under the Shivaji or before Shivaji, what was the situation. Then the second important thing is related with the after Shivaji. After Shivaji, Peshwa took over that. So what were the situation in the Peshwa politico-administrative structure in the Peshwa. Then after the Peshwa, Maratha Confederacy was there. So in that we are going to discuss the Maratha Confederacy, and finally we are going to discuss the decline of Marathas in all the sense, and Battle of Panipat is one of the representative example of it. Clear? So this is the part in the syllabus. Now what exactly? Now we are going to discuss Marathas in detail. Whenever we are going to discuss the question related to the Maratha, which topics we have to cover, what are the things we have to remember while reading the Marathas. So first most important thing, the approach to read Maratha history. What should be the approach? First and most important thing is related to the rise of Maratha. Rise of Maratha means, some of you might get confused that rise of Maratha, what's the big deal in that? You are in a history optional, and history optional you require detailings of it. So basically rise of Maratha is having a divergent point of view. So whenever we are going to discuss the rise of Maratha, we have to discuss the divergent views by historians. The divergent views by historians. Some of them are colonial rule, some of the views are nationalist rule, and some of the views are basically related to the rational. So different historian through over the different period of time mention this fact, their ideas related to the rise of Maratha. The most important thing, as the earlier everybody knew about this nationalist reaction. It was a kind of nationalist reaction against the alien rule. This point of view is represented in history by the historians like Rajwade, nationalistic struggle, nationalistic reaction against the alien rule, Ranade, Rajwade, Sabasad, and all, they mention these views. Then one more view is there, and that is related to the Hindu reaction. Hindu reaction against Aurangzeb rule or Aurangzeb policies. Aurangzeb rule or Aurangzeb policies. So who mentioned this view? The basic example of this is or a representative historian, that is Jadunath Sarkar. Jadunath Sarkar said that it is a Hindu reaction against it. Is it that? So one more person is representing a different ideology or different point of view, and the different point of view is basically growing Mughal pressure, in Deccan. This view is represented by Grand Duff. One more view is there, that is rise of Maratha is related to socio-political condition. This view represented by Satish Chandra. Yes, the famous person who has written the NCERT, and most of you are referring that NCERT. Then one more view is related to agrarian reaction of oppressed peasants against Mughal policies. This view is represented by Irfan Habib, one of the renowned historian. Yes, so these are the view. Now tell me which view is considered as a valid for rise of Marathas. These are the divergent views. So the question can be asked in this manner, that if they are going to call about the Shivaji as a Hindu nationalist rise against the Maratha power, discuss. So such type of question can be asked, and it is related to the view, point of view. Clear? So these are the divergent view, and we have to read everything in detail whether it was there or not. So let's take example of one thing, that is the Hindu reaction against the Aurangzeb policy. Do you really think so it was the case that Shivaji's rule or Shivaji's administration was basically representative of Hindu state? Means the Muslim doesn't have any scope in that? It is not at all the case. The best example, that Nayaks of Karnataka, Hindu ruler, was there, but Shivaji made an ally with Golconda and Bijapur, and this ally defeated the Nayaks of Karnataka. Even the plundering of temples are the representative example of that. So it is not the case. Even in Shivaji's case, that Pathan unit was also there. So there are so many evidences that it is not a discrimination against that. So Hindu reaction, it was not at all the case. The another important view that is related to nationalist reaction against alien rule. Alien rule means, can we consider the Muslim rule as an alien rule? Just Muslim ruler as an alien rule? Of course not, because there were, who were the Marathas? Marathas rose into the power with the Bahmanis, then the successor states of Bahmanis, and so many evidences that Marathas, even the Shivaji also collaborate with Mughals, Shahaji collaborate with Mughal. So these are the evidences. So it is not the case. And one more thing, whether the Mughals were alien, they were outsiders, they born, brought up here, their policies are here. So basically it is having something different aspect. Clear? So many angles are there, and we have to study this angle in detail. That is important because it is a controversial topic. So many historians mention such views, and we have to deal with that. So this should be the approach while discussing the rise of Marathas. Okay, so I already mentioned divergent views. Okay, the next important thing, we are going to discuss the political perspective in the rise of Maratha. First we mention the divergent view, then we mention about the political perspective in rise of Maratha. As you know that some of you quite aware of that Marathas basically the people who are living in Maharashtra in one particular geographical landmass, and they don't have any individual identity for a long time. Initially their rise is belonging to the Bahmanis. I told you their rise is related to the Bahmani. Then you can easily see their rise means so many rulers, means so many Maratha Sardars like More, Ghadge and everyone, they all related with this. The next important phase started with the successor state like Bijapur. Bijapur is there, then Ahmadnagar. So these are the two important states where Marathas played an important role. They became the prominent, they played a prominent role in this empire. Even the Shahaji, here it is the representative example, the Shahaji, the father of Shivaji. He also played an important role in strengthening these empire, and he defected from one place to another for the better opportunity. Even Shahaji is visible in the Mughal during the time of Shah Jahan. During the time of Shah Jahan it is there, but later on what exactly the case? After the Shahaji, Shivaji, what he did? He mobilized the resources, he mobilized the human resources and formed his own kingdom. Clear? So the next phase, so that is the political perspective, means gradually, the growth is gradually, and it reached to Shivaji. Clear? Shivaji is a representative example who formed the kingdom. So the rise of Maratha is not an sudden event that one fine morning Shivaji decided to have his own state. It is not the case. It is a gradual move, and we can see it easily. After Shivaji, for some time prosperity was there, again the decline started. During the Peshwa initial year, during the Bajirao first, it was there, then decline started. Clear? So rise of Maratha is like this. Okay. It is there. Next important thing related to rule of Shivaji in rise of Maratha. This is an important topic. Rule of Shivaji in rise of Maratha. What kind of role Shivaji played? Do you think so? What kind of role Shivaji played? It is a very important aspect of this particular topic, that is role of Shivaji in rise of Maratha. Why Shivaji is praised till today? If you know the Maharashtra, Karnataka, these are the states where the Shivaji, even now Shivaji's image is like, is considered as a holy figure. Yeah. Why it is so? With the means as Shivaji died around 400 years ago, but still the name and fame and everything and every section of the society, whether it is Hindu, whether it is a Muslim, or whether it is a Christian as well, in these states, especially in Maharashtra, it is there. Why it is so? Why the ruler is so popular till today? So to understand the role of Shivaji in rise of Maratha is very important. The most important role played by Shivaji mobilizing people. Mobilizing people is a most important role played by, because the Marathas were divided into so many, Marathas were working under so many different native rulers, like Ahmadnagar was there, then Bijapur was there, even during under the Mughals were there. So they were working under all, but there is no certain Maratha power, though they played a dominant role in Deccan plateau, but still it was not the case. So what Shivaji did, Shivaji mobilized the people. The most important thing, next important thing, he subdued it, the Deshmukhs and Deshpandes. What exactly Deshmukh and Deshpandes? Basically in Deccan area, Deshmukh and Deshpandes were the zamindars. They were powerful enough, they were having dominance enough in that particular area. So what Shivaji did, when he mobilized the people, at the same time he subdued Deshmukh and Deshpande. That means he established his control over zamindars and he claimed himself Sir Deshmukh. The title is there, Sir Deshmukh, means over and above Deshmukh. Clear? So it is the case he suppressed them. The next important aspect of Shivaji, and that is his state administration, is important. Clear? State administration is important. Then we can mention state administration of Shivaji is very important. So many aspects are involved into the state administration. Don't worry, we are going to discuss this thing in detail as well. State administration. The most important aspect of Shivaji's administration is, Shivaji is a what we can say, a basically adoptive ruler. He always welcomed the new ideas. If any noble idea is present, he is going to acquire it. The best example that Shivaji's administration is highly influenced by the Deccanian states and Mughals. The most important aspect, his administrative office, that is Ashtapradhan Mandal, was there. This Ashtapradhan Mandal was basically representative of Deccanian state. Malik Ambar is one of the famous person under Ahmadnagar. So he adopted that Ashtapradhan Mandal from them. Then land revenue policies were there. Mughal land revenue policy was very important. Land measurement was there. So Shivaji also introduced that. So many offices, even the foreign relation office was there. So many offices were there and so many institutions were there. It was highly influenced by the Deccanian state or the Mughal. He adopted the best from these and implemented his policy. Clear? Next important thing, he basically, the most important, state administration. Then he centralized the military. He organized the land revenue, that is the important, as well as he centralized the military, because earlier it was not the case. Marathas were acting like a militia. Now a state proper military, state's military was there, and they were given the salary, as well as they have to maintain their horses, yes, their forces and everything, and even the code of conduct was also there. means Shivaji, means in normal words, Shivaji's instructions like that, you are going for a war, not on picnic. So whatever the things you are going to carry, all the things should be essential for the war, not for your welfare. It was a clear idea, and even his policy related to the war is also clear. So that is the most important contribution of Shivaji in the rise of Maratha. Proper administration was there, proper military system was also there. Clear? So this all about the rise of Maratha, or the rule of Shivaji in rise of Maratha. The next important thing we have to take into consideration, and that is related to Maratha state system. Maratha state system, that is political administration of Maratha. So what exactly here? Here we have to divide this thing into three aspects. First, of course, under Shivaji. I already gave you some example of Shivaji's centralized administration and all. The second is under Peshwa. Under the Peshwa, the very best example that Peshwas became the de facto ruler during the time of Shahu, and later on they played a dominant role in that. So they shifted their office from the capital to Pune, and that office was known as Huzur Daftar. Yes, so it was the case. So Peshwa's dominance was there in the administration. So we have to discuss these two aspects, and the third important aspect in political administrative structure is basically related to Maratha Confederacy. The Maratha Confederacy is a very best example, that Scindias, Holkars, Gaikwad and all, these were the Maratha nobles that later on they become so powerful and created their own autonomous state at various parts of India. Even the Bhosles were there in Nagpur. So at so many places they were having dominant role, their own. So we have to discuss this Maratha state administration into three phases: Shivaji, Peshwa and Maratha Confederacy. Okay, the next important thing we have to take into consideration, that is nature of Maratha system. Nature of Maratha state system means whether the Maratha system was a centralized system, or whether the Maratha system was a decentralized or confederacy was there. Then Maratha state system was Hindu ruler, or the Hindu, what we can say, state, or it was a secular state. So these are the so many aspects we have to discuss into nature of Maratha state into detail. What was the exact nature? Clear? So or whether it is the basically national reaction against that. So that is also the reaction. Yes, that is also the one of the important aspects. So many aspects we are going to discuss into detail into nature of Maratha state system. Later on, the most important aspect is decline of Marathas. Decline of Marathas, do you really think so it was a sudden move that suddenly in one go Marathas declined? No, there were some problems. So this is also an important aspect in history everywhere. Means if you are studying history optional, then you have to study the decline part in detail, whether it is related decline of Mauryans is there, decline of Gupta is there, decline of Delhi Sultanate is there, decline of Mughal is there, or decline of Marathas are there. There are so many aspects we have to take into consideration into decline. Internal aspect and external aspect. The internal aspect I told you already. Internal aspect means inherent problems are there, their socio-economic problems are there. Inherent problem means basically problem in administration. Socio-economic problem means basically this related to the other aspect, means revenue and all. These problems are there. Then along with that, conspiracies are also there. That is also internal problem. Weak successor, that is an internal problem. So many internal problems are there. External problems that also played an important role into that. External factors then means rise of any particular power, neighboring state. Yes. Or coming of foreign powers in that. So in Maratha also, there are so many other factors, basically the Portuguese were there, English were there, but the most important role played by Afghans into, and third battle of Panipat is one of the representative example. So in decline you can mention about, means we are going to discuss the inherent problems in the administration. Means basically Shivaji's system was a centralized system, but still they were having feudal tinge, inherent problems were there. Then we are going to discuss about the another important aspect, that is geopolitical situation. Don't worry, I am going to discuss this aspect as well in detail. What was the case? Geopolitical factor, what was the problem? Geopolitical problems we are going to discuss in the detail. Then we are going to talk about the external factors and all. Now it is the case. One more aspect is there, and that is related to legacy. Legacy of Maratha. Do you think so Maratha played an important role, or Maratha gave some legacy? Do you think so Marathas are still present in the areas of Maharashtra, Karnataka and so many places where these Maratha rulers were there? Of course it is there. Now everybody shares their identity. Yes, they share their identity, they consider themselves very close to the ideas of Shivaji and all. Why it is so? That is the most important. So mobilization of disintegrated group, or what we can say, the mobilization of scattered group into one identity, that is the most important legacy of Maratha. Yes, the rise of Shivaji, that is the most important. Second most important, it promoted the Marathi literature, that is also the important aspect of it. Along with that, they promoted the idea of Maharashtra Dharma. If you know the this Bhakti movement, in the Bhakti movement the most important aspect or most important role is of Maharashtra Dharma in Deccan area. Clear? So you should know these things. So legacy is also clear. So these are the aspects we have to discuss into detail when we are going to discuss about the Maratha. Clear? Yes everyone, is that clear to you? Okay. Now what? Now I just want to mention one important aspect, and that was related to geopolitical limitation. Geopolitical limitations of Maratha. As you know that some of you might have quite aware of this fact that Shivaji looted Surat twice. Sambhaji looted Burhanpur. Along with that, so many Maratha Sardars, they also looted and plundered so many areas. Even the Peshwas, they looted the temple in Mysore state. Even the Bhosles, they also what we can say, have war with the Bengal, and they what we can say, they claim the chauth in that particular area. Chauth means basically it was a kind of tax imposed on non-Marathas area. That means 1/4 of your revenue you have to surrender to Maratha. So basically why it was so? Firoti, it is a kind of Firoti means basically. Even the Khandani was a tax, it was imposed over the Rajput territories. Why it was so? Why it was so? Why every time they were doing so? Of course, the one important aspect is expansion of empire, but every time the money is involved into that. Why it is so? The most important, the answer lies in the geographical area where the Marathas ruled at that time. I told you, means in this lecture series only, I told you that why these foreigners came to India. The idea was very clear, to loot and plunder, but why it is so? Why they traveled so long? As we have the two representative example, that is Ghazni and Ghori. This Ghazni and Ghori, they came from that particular area which is far away from India. But why they came? Because they were the rulers of that area, and to run the administration, what is required? Money is required. So if you don't have money, then what is the solution? Either you can generate your own revenue sources, or if it is not possible, then take revenue sources from the prosperous area and run your administration. It was the case, and they did that. In the Maratha areas also, it was the same situation. What was the case? The first most important thing, as if you know the land of this area. Do you know land in the Maharashtra and nearby area in Deccan Plateau? It is made up of which rock? Basalt. Black cotton soil is there. As if you compare with the alluvial plain, Indo-Gangetic Brahmaputra basin, do you really think so they are having that much fertile land? Of course it is fertile, but not that much as it is visible in the Indo-Gangetic plain. Simple. Second most important thing, other than land, that is, it is there in rain shadow area. Rain shadow area. Do you know what is rain shadow area? Why it is there? It is simple. If you know the geography, if you have if you have read the geography NCERT of 11th standard, then you will get to know what exactly. Basically, the presence of Western Ghat is there. Western Ghat is having orographic rain, but once it crosses, the rainfall reduced. That is a rain shadow area. So basically, land is not that fertile as the alluvial plain. The second most important aspect is related at that time, that is rain, but it was not that much. Why? Because of the presence in rain shadow area. Then other than that, even the basically hills and forest means the fertile tract was also limited. Whatever the tracts were there, most of the area covered with the hills and forest. You know, one important strategy Shivaji uses in his military technique, that is guerrilla warfare. Why guerrilla warfare? The most important advantage is basically hills and forests were there. In the hills they attack and they retreat, but it was not the case in the North India. In North India, one word we use in geography, North Indian plain. Plains means clear land masses there, but here the hilly areas are there. So you know that as the land is a problematic thing, second most important rain shadow area, and third important hill and forest are present. So do you really think so that they will have ample production in the field of agriculture? Of course not. So what were the problem? So the geographical area, this all were there, and that is having the two aspect. First important, in the agriculture field, output is less. So output is less, so agriculture output is less, so agriculture surplus is also less. If agriculture surplus is there, do you really think so? If it is less, then it is going to promote the trading activity, craft, because trade, when trade is there. So if the agriculture surplus is there, then trade is going to be possible. So crafts are also less. So trade is also less as compared to the northern India we are talking about. Yes, so it is the case. No surplus, no craft, no trade, or no whatever, less trade. So it symbolizes less revenue. Am I right or wrong? Less revenue is there. Then one more aspect, where it is. Okay. The another important aspect, this is related to the agriculture. So the another important aspect, that is geopolitical limitation. This geopolitical limitation, this leads to limited resources. Limited resources are there. So limited resources were there. So it forces Maratha to accept what we can, अब हम फिरौती भी कह सकते हैं या फिर उसे grants भी कह सकते हैं, or whatever it may be. So it forces them to use the taxes like Chauth, Sardeshmukhi, Clear? Then Khandani, etc. These taxes were imposed on several. This Sar Deshmukhi is on Deshmukhs, it is a 10%, Chaut is a 1/4, and Khandani, it is a tax on Rajput area. So what was the impact of it? These things are imposed in so many areas, and it is going to hurt the interest of course, zamindars. Yes, then other native rulers, basically Bengal, yes, Awadh, it was the case. Then it is going to hurt the interest of Rajputs. So do you really think so that they will develop a cordial relationship with them? That these states, these native states like Awadh, Bengal or Rajput states, they are going to have a cordial relationship? Of course not. And that is the result. They don't have ally. No allies were there. And the resultant of that, everybody knew, in the Battle of Panipat, Marathas was not supported by others because of this policy. So this is also an important aspect in the decline as well. Clear? So we should know that. So whenever we are going to study, we have to take all these things into consideration. One more thing, in the rise of Maratha, one more factor is important, that is the role of Maharashtra Dharma into rise of Maratha, because the Maharashtra Dharma created the identity of oneness. That is, we, this people from different areas, but we are speaking one language, Marathi language. So that oneness is there. So rise of Maratha is also having, or the Maharashtra Dharma is also important factor in the rise of Maratha. So many things we have to discuss. Clear? So these things we have to taken into consideration. Okay, now what? Now we are going to discuss the question which was asked in the examination. Shivaji was not merely a military conqueror but also enlightened ruler. Discuss. Do you agree? First of all, do you agree with this view? Military conqueror means just to conquer the state without any intention or without any establishment of administration. It is the idea of conqueror, that is we used to call Sikandar. Yes, Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, what exactly it is? Military conqueror, just go and conquer the states. Even the latter Marathas, it is the word is with the Shivaji. In the latter Marathas, basically the Peshwa and onwards, basically what Peshwa did, they expand the Maratha territory, but they failed to establish the administration there. They failed to establish the other policies there. So that is considered as a military conqueror. Was Shivaji military conqueror only? Of course not. He was a military conqueror because without conquering the things, how it is possible to form kingdom? Of course. So he was a, but this question is basically focusing on which aspect? The aspect of Shivaji related to the enlightenment ruler. So your focus while writing the answer should be here more than the military conqueror. Yes, as the word, as the question mentioned, then we have to mention about the Shivaji's war, conquest and military expedition. That you have to mention, but the most important question is related to the enlightenment ruler. So what we have to go, what we have to write in this question, so we are going to discuss right now. So what should be the approach? Discuss. The question, the word basic is discuss. So we have to discuss. We do not have to criticize. We do not have to have the critical view over it. Clear? So basically you have to mention the military conqueror, and then you have to mention the different dimension of enlightenment ruler. So what should be the approach? The part 1. So basically if you read this question, no, and if you go through this history books and detail in the history optional, then you will get to know that this basic question is, if we summarize it, it is basically role of Shivaji. ये जितना भी लिखा है ना, Shivaji was not a merely military conqueror but also enlightened ruler. It is basically role of Shivaji in rise of Maratha. That is the simple thing It is there. So what should be our approach? First part is related to introduction. In introduction, what you have to mention? You have to mention the role of Shivaji in Maratha kingdom, or role of Shivaji in rise of Maratha. In brief, not in detail. You are not, because this question is this question itself is a main type of question. So we have to give information in brief. Means what exactly? We have to mention the role of Shivaji, what he did. He mobilized the resources, he mobilized the human resources, he subdued the zamindars and all that we have to mention. Means the area which was divided into several native rulers, or area was divided into, or the people of that particular area divided into so many principalities. What he did, he integrated that and created one identity, and that identity is of Maratha kingdom. Clear? So you have to mention, that is the introduction. Clear? Means you mention that they form. How he formed? The part 2. Part 2, it starts with how it formed, and how the most important is military expedition or military conquest of Shivaji. Yes, you have to mention that, but it is not the case that your focus should be on this. Remember, this question is related to enlightenment ruler more rather than military conqueror, because it is not merely a military conqueror, but also enlightened ruler. So your focus should be on this aspect. So you are going to talk about the conquest of Shivaji. In the this thing, you are going to divide into 3 parts. Early phase, you are going to discuss about his first expedition, Torna, Raigad and all. Then you are going to mention about the More, the Jauli was there, it is near Satara. So you are going to mention about his subdued that, and then you are going to mention about his last expedition that is related to the Karnataka. Clear? So it is the 3 phases. Initial, when he was what we can say, he was child at that time only. So initial expedition. So military conquest, you are going to mention initial expedition. The best example, Torna and all. Then in meanwhile, the subdued zamindar, and the last is basically related to Karnataka. Here you are going to mention about the Surat and all, here in the subdued zamindar and all, initial phase. But once he coronated himself as a king, because earlier Shivaji was not considered by king by so many people. So that's why what he did, he took one person from Varanasi, gave them so much money and have a coronation ceremony, and in that it is declared that Shivaji is a Kshatriya and he is having ability to rule. So after coronation, Karnataka expedition is there. Clear? So we have to discuss that. Okay. That should be the aspect. Now the most important part 3. Part 3 is basically enlighten. What is the basic what we can say factor is important to become a person enlightened? To whom we can consider enlightened, to whom we considered wise, knows the strength and limitation, that is the person wise. Enlightened person, he was an enlightened ruler. What is the difference between common man and ruler king? Common man is having a vision for a day, month or few years. Ruler is always having a vision for centuries. Shivaji was that person. He was a visionary person. So what kind of vision he was having? So his vision is clearly visible in his politico-administrative structure. His vision is really visible in his religious policy. His vision is really visible in his strengthening army. He was the first ruler in basically during the medieval time who had navy. He established a navy. That is the one of the most important significant, because he knew that, because he was a visionary leader, he knew that these foreigners are going to establish their control, because Portuguese were there, even the Britishers were there. So that's why he was having vision, that is strengthening of navy is important. So that for that reason he started navy. So enlightened ruler, what you are going to mention, the most important aspect of it, you are going to mention politico administration of Maratha state under the Shivaji. Here you are going to mention the two aspects in political administration. The first important point you have to mention, that is it is a amalgamation or collaborative policies adopted from Mughals as well as Deccan state. He adopted that. The most important Mughal policy, land revenue policy is from Mughal. Jagirdari is from Mughal. The concept of Jagir is from Mughal. Deccan state, the administration, Ashtapradhan Mandal is one of the aspect of it. Clear, the office of Peshwa is from Deccan state. So many aspects is from Deccan state. So you should know about the political administration, and this is a representative example of his enlightened view. Next important thing in enlightened view, you are going to mention about the land revenue policy. You are going to mention about the land measurement and all, what should be the policy and all. Next important aspect, that is religious policy. Religious tolerance was there. All means all religions are respected. It is not the case that nowadays there are so many people who defame the Shivaji and portray Shivaji as a Hindu ruler, but it is not at all the case. And if you know the Shivaji in a better manner, then this is completely false, that Shivaji was a Hindu ruler. Shivaji was a secular ruler, and that's why all the members from the all communities, including the Muslims, were the part of Shivaji's army. Clear? Next important religious, after religious land revenue policy, religious policy. Next, monetary policy or monetization of economy. Monetization of economy. Shivaji introduced his own, what you can say, currency. So many things were there. Shivrai was one of the coin related to Shivaji. Next important thing, we are going to talk about the military department or strengthening, centralization of military. And code of conduct you have to mention. Every time the code of conduct is there. Shivaji never asked his army to capture the villages and take whatever they have. He said that if you required any food or anything, then take it from the peasant and you have to pay the proper price of it. So code of conduct is always there. So he strengthened the military and all. Clear? So all these things were there, or you can consider that these factors are considered as a visionary, and that's why Shivaji is considered as an, and you can add two more factors, but if you are in a position to write this much, that is sufficient. Now what should be the last part, because this is the discuss, this is not a criticize, so you can write some limitation, but there is no need of that. Part 4, and that should be conclusion. Conclusion. Part 4 should be conclusion. And what should be the conclusion? Always remember, conclusion is whatever you have written, it is a crux of that. That is your conclusion. So what you are going to write here? You are going to write here that the Shivaji's politico-administrative system, his religious policy, his land revenue policy, these all symbolize that Shivaji was a visionary leader, and Shivaji played an important role in that all these things, and this policy was continued for some time. Clear? So his approach is of welfare king. So all these shows Shivaji was not just a military conqueror, but he was a enlightened ruler. That should be the case. His approach was welfare king. So you are going to mention that thing. Clear? So this is all about this section of Maratha, and this question was related to the Shivaji. I hope these things are clear to you. If you are having any question, any query, you can ask us. Yes, so that's all from this session. Thank you very much for your valuable time. Thank you.